Yeah, that might be great if we could do that.
Or do you want to go to my place about just church?
Well, welcome everyone. So glad you guys are all here. You do something like this, you're not quite sure who's going to attend and what the questions are. So I have a handful of things. Just to give a little bit of background is some of this is from Lutheran Social Services directly, and some of it's kind of like ad hoc stuff that we've had to make because Lutheran Social Services is a wonderful partner to work with, but there is an aspect to it where, they still have a lot of logistics like legal, advertising, things that need to get approved through their hierarchy. So because all of this is so new, because a lot of it's still in development, we have this kind of the weird thing where we're trying to get things ready to go as soon as we can, but we still have some things. So we're I don't want to say that we're building the plane as we fly it. We're a little bit better than that. But this is very much an exciting pilot program, as we're calling it. So there is a lot that we're trying to do in real time. So before I kind of jump into the presentation here, I just want to talk a little bit about what I have here, because you'll see that some of it looks very professional and some of it looks like something that I made or someone from my team made. And that's kind of the background for it. So we have business cards from Lutheran Social Services that give, just kind of like if we want to start reaching out, we already can start doing some of that. We have some very professional looking flyers that you can take. Again, this is more for, rather than the information that we're going to be covering today, just some helpful stuff. And then I also have some, what we're calling frequently asked questions. So this is kind of like, if you're looking for like the bullet points, the things that are most relevant, and the things that basically frequently asked questions, this is what you're going to find as a summary for like someone who can't be at this meeting, or maybe someone that is asking about it that you meet. This is a great place to start for both a summary and the most practical thing. So Lois, I'm going to kind of start with you, and if we can kind of pass it around as I'm talking, that'll be great. So we have the three things here. What's that?
I say I want to take notes then.
If you may want to, but it's a great starting point. And a little opportunity for questions, different things as well.
Are you logged into the video so that
I am logged into
the Fran?
yeah, so I don't have a way to show it easily, but I am logged into Teams and I don't see anyone in right now, but I'm also recording this so that we can potentially save it and use it for later. I may not have enough copies of the frequently asked questions. So for now you can share, and then I can very easily print more off after we're done here for anyone who wants that. So just a little bit, because we've been talking about this, or at least I've been talking about it during announcements as part of sermons for a little bit, but I wanted to back up and give us some context in case there were some people who didn't have a chance to hear that or weren't fully sure what was going on. So just by a show of hands, how many people have already heard kind of how we got to this point, partnering with Lutheran Social Services on this home matching program? How many people are saying, I would like a little bit more of the backstory because I know that there's something going on, but I don't really know how we got here. How many people would find that just a little bit helpful? Quick. Yeah, so thank you, Lois. So that's a great segue, because a little over a year ago, as a church, we went to the mall, we went to we went to all these different places, because the idea is that revived churches, healthy, thriving churches, are engaging their community. They're not asking them to come to us, we're going to them. And so the best way to do that is to do something we'll say like a survey, where we say, rather than us telling you what you need, you tell us what you need. That's what churches do that are engaging, that are growing, that are thriving. And so the survey was a great way to get out of our four walls, get in our community and start asking that question. It was a tool essentially, but it wasn't like just like a prop. We really wanted to ask, what do you need? How do we as a church bless you, the community? How can we meaningfully engage? And one of the things that popped high on the list was affordable housing, right? And all of a sudden you hear affordable housing. And if you're anything like me, you're like, I have no idea how we're going to tackle this project. Are we going to build something? Like, how is that scalable? How is that sustainable? Do I want to be a property manager? No. So how, like, this is a big unwieldy problem. And in my previous context, our coach would always say, don't worry about that. Just engage the process. Be in the community. They would use this term, find people of peace, and trust that God is going to make connections and open doors. And so for the better part of the year, that's really what I did, is I tried to schedule as many meetings as I could to learn about the problem, to learn about what's already being done, to find community partners, to research all these different things. And after the better part of a year, I knew a lot more about it, but I didn't really have anything that resembled an answer, right? And so I'll be honest, I was getting super frustrated. I was getting super discouraged. I really didn't quite know what we were doing. And then one of the people that did want to partner with us, one of these people in Eden Prairie said, you know what? I'm going to make one more phone call, which reminded me of something that our coach said, just one more conversation, one more outreach opportunity, one more knock on a door, and just keep trying, be persistent, don't give up. If this is what God has called you to, he is going to open a door in a surprising way. And lo and behold, within a couple of months, we met up with Lutheran Social Services, found out that they wanted to do a pilot program somewhere in the United States, agreed for us to be that pilot program in the Southwest Metro, and took care of all the logistics that we as a church would never, ever want to do. So we're talking infrastructure, legal, the matching, website hosting, advertising, anything that resembles infrastructure, they want and are willing to take care of it. We do not have to worry about it at all. So why do they want to partner with us? They need hands and feet. The only way a program like this works is if we are engaging our community. If we're telling people that this program works. And guess what? That is exactly what our church should be doing anyway. We don't have to worry about the infrastructure. We just need to engage our community. And guess what? A little over a year later, we get to go back out to Eden Prairie and the Southwest Metro and said, hey, you said that to bless you. If we're going to bless our community, to engage them, we need to do something about affordable housing. And we now can go back to them and say, we have something. This is not going to solve affordable housing, but we have a very real, tangible way to begin addressing it that is sustainable and scalable. So we get to be the hands and feet of Jesus and to say, this is what you asked for. Let's talk more about it and share Jesus along the way with all of the backing and infrastructure of Lutheran Social Services. So that's pretty neat, in my opinion. But I want to pause there for a second and ask questions about that before we start looking at the program itself. Questions? We are like, so we are the Southwest Metro of Minnesota is the only pilot program right now. There are other organizations in Vermont and California not associated with Lutheran Social Services that have home share programs. And so when I was talking about what we were doing over the last year, a lot of it was engaging with them. What are you doing? How do you do this? Learning about costs, learning about legal, learning about how do matches actually work, and how do you ensure safety, all these different things, learning from them. But the pilot program with Lutheran Social Services is unique to us in our region, and there's a few other groups. So if you look on some of these cards, you'll see St. Andrew's Church and the, what is it? I can't remember what it's called. Housing Alliance. So basically, the few people that, as I was going out in the community meeting, looking for partners, those people are associated with these two groups. And also for like legal concerns, it was helpful to use the Eden Prairie Housing Alliance as kind of like a buffer, so we didn't have to worry about legal concerns. So they're kind of like a housing thing for the legal interactions, so that we don't have to worry about that.
Is that an organization that's already in place? Yes.
It was already in place, and they came out of several years ago. There was some sort of commission done by the city to try to investigate a number of things about the health and well-being of Eden Prairie. And one of the things that came up back then already was affordable housing. So they created a commission, the city did, in partnership with this group that was formed as a result, to try to begin investigating. And they made some progress. Some background information is I think that they stipulated a certain number of affordable housing units in new developments and apartments and things of that. But it was clear that it wasn't enough, that it was still an issue. So they kind of spearheaded it. But when I engaged them, they were running out of steam. They were looking for an infusion of life and, different people to engage in this topic. So when I met with them, I can tell you it was very welcome. They are eager to have us as partners.
Is this going to be just related then to the Eden Prairie resident possibility?
So Southwest Metro, so Chaska is a possibility, Chanhassen, Shakopee, all of those, like kind of was it the 7 counties
Okay.
are, or 7 cities, I can't quite remember, are fair game for the pilot program.
I'm seeing a lot of ads that people put on Nextdoor, which is an
Yes.
app. And they're asking, say, my mother needs help in her home, maybe 20 hours a month. Or to come in and put groceries away, to fold up laundry, do laundry, things like that. And it's on Nextdoor. Is that a venue that we could?
Yes, we can absolutely do stuff like with Nextdoor and social media. Absolutely.
So you weren't living in the home.
But you were going into the home.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I.
And you weren't doing medical, you weren't doing medical stuff, but she
Right.
was a companion to a woman out local.
So that is.
Both organizations are in place.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's a pilot program, so is there a time frame?
Yes. So we're using for 1 year from like when we are able to actually start matching. So we're not actually able to take matches quite yet because of some of the legal things that Lutheran Social Services is still working through. But once that happens, once everything is truly live, we have 1 year for the pilot program. And basically that is kind of a more restricted program, so we can just test its viability. And if there are problems or issues or things that we need to work through before we make it more permanent and add in more variables. So I'll kind of touch on some of those, because right now there's a few things that I think a lot of people would benefit from affordable housing. But at this time, for the pilot program, we're not going to say that they're eligible for it. Because the more factors, the more variables you put in, the harder it is to evaluate what's going well and what's not. So we're taking a very slim and narrow perspective in the first year. Yes, very limited. And so if you don't know a lot about Lutheran Social Services, they're one of the largest social nonprofits in Minnesota. 10,000 volunteers, 2,500 plus staff. This is a neat partner to have. And again, we can talk more about that, but I'm guessing most of us have at least heard of Lutheran Social Services. This isn't like a fringe group. You're like, wait, who are they? Interesting.
Katie, sir, Katie Hansen.
So, and our goals, we were talking a little bit about the pilot program. It's 12-month pilot. And our goal, so we're not talking about matches, but it's to sign up at least 100 homeowners, 200 home seekers, and make at least 5 matches. So what you can see is there will be a lot of people who want to participate in this program, but we're very picky about matches for a lot of reasons. Safety, like we want this program to go well. We want good word of mouth. We don't want things to go sideways. So if we want to be very sure that the match is going to stick and it's going to be a good relationship and we have all the safeguards in place. So you need a lot of people to, at least early on, open up their home, say that they want to do the home sharing on the other side. And then from that, a smaller percentage will actually be matched.
So we could be looking at those that are attending colleges and schooling nearby.
Yep.
These counties.
Yep.
Then we can look at homeowners throughout this county. So how do we propose to reach the homeowners that want to do it? Secondly, then are we putting the possible matches through social services to do background checks?
Yes.
Okay, and then are we also then doing background checks on homeowners?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's like 6 really good questions in there. So practical, I like the enthusiasm. This is great. What are the nuts and bolts? So you asked about making, like, how do we start outreaching in our community? That's where all of our minds should be. We actually want to build up the homeowner database first, like the people who are willing to open up their home, because that is the harder of the two. Although in our community, from some of the statistics, we should be well poised to actually do some of the outreach. The ways that we're going to do that, some of it involves, like, we have senior community center is engaging them and helping them to make open doors for us, contacts, events, different things, as well as a few others in the area. So we can kind of go through some of those specifics just a tad bit later. But in short, networking. And that's what Lutheran Social Services wants us to do. Engage organizations, individuals, HOAs. So another one for like home seekers is there a lot of apartment owners, apartment managers who have to turn people away for a variety of reasons. We should be engaging property managers. Like there are so many opportunities to be in our community, meeting a need. These will be welcome conversations. Background checks, homes have to be inspected. There's trial periods. There's a lot of safety checks and guardrails in place. And so we'll touch on that just a little bit later. Good question, because that's going to be one of the biggest things. Is this safe? People aren't going to want to open up their homes. They're not going to want to live with someone else if they don't have some of those assurances. And so that has been a major thing, and why Lutheran Social Services is taking so much time with the insurance piece of it all. Good questions. We need to know a little bit more about the program itself. Yes. Yes, yeah, I'm trying to take conversation as we go, but also what the program is. So long-term goals, successful, scalable, sustainable program. And obviously what Lutheran Social Services has to make all these safety checks possible costs money. And so we have built in different fees structure for the homeowner and the home seeker. That is, I don't remember the number offhand, but pretty manageable and will still make it very affordable for that. So we've built in costs that this is scalable and we don't need to be building. It's more about using resources that already exist. So to your question, what is home sharing? Let's get the absolute basics in place. So we're taking unrelated people. So these aren't like people who know each other. to share like a house for mutual benefit. So typically they have at least one or two, like a private bedroom, and like a shared like kitchen, living space that in the contract, that's all outlined, that it's going to be available to use. And in exchange for that space, there's one of two options. One is just rent, like a cheaper, if you want to call it a subsidized, but not market value rent. Or you can exchange services or some combination therein. So I can't remember where it was brought up, but like we want someone to help with groceries. We want lawn, all these different things where uh, the needs aren't like something that are like seriously medical where a lot of time or effort or expertise is, but things along those lines are acceptable and usually broken down into hours and specific jobs and functions. So in exchange for like essentially cheaper rent, maybe there's a few tasks that you do in exchange, and you have kind of a few rooms and a shared space that are made available. So it's kind of like renting, but it's also different in that you
It's very much like make it more secure because we're dealing with an older level of residents. And they need that assurance just as much as the people that would be coming into that environment need that assurance.
yes.
Because it is like a trade. In other words, come into my home, you're welcome, but I'm gonna need a few things from you. And the rent is such set that we would establish that as being maybe slightly under the market rate because there are other duties that you would be performing.
Yeah, and actually in many cases, it's pretty significantly under market rate. So and we have guidelines, we have suggestions for what that makes sense, especially when you start comparing exchanging services and how much that can subsidize. So that you don't have to necessarily make it up on your own, like what's fair and what's reasonable. But at the same time, it's your home and you still have the opportunity to make those decisions. Like nothing's going to be forced upon you. This is all we are facilitators, like, or not we, Lutheran Social Services is facilitators, but you still get to make the decision about who's in your home, rent, services, all those sort of things are still very much within your control. But giving that structure, the protection, facilitating is really what Lutheran Social Services does. And so the good thing is that it's cost-effective solution. We don't need to build new things. We're just using existing resources more effectively to everyone's mutual benefit. Those who are looking for cheaper rent, they have that option. For those who are looking for companionship, for help with services, they have that. So we're just utilizing resources in a different way.
And anybody cities low income, what I'm trying to say is that what department of the city are we working? What's it called?
So it would be primarily with
Social
the,
services.
so the city, all they really require of us is the same, like there's I think it's $100 annual,
106.
that might, yeah, to have your home inspected so that it's safe for renting. It's something that anyone who rents their home out would need to have. And that this would be required for that as well. That's what the city requires. But beyond that, almost everything else thereon after is with Lutheran Social Services and not the
So
city.
then they keep the statistics at Lutheran Services.
Yes, including things like we're working through as the homeowner is receiving income, tax forms and receipts and all those sorts of things are also a part of the conversation, and that is Lutheran Social Services job and work. I don't know all the details about that, but I know that that is on their radar and they're working through that. And looking at like where this has been done in other places. Because again, even though Lutheran Social Services and what we're doing is a pilot program and unique, this idea of home sharing isn't really new. And so looking at Vermont's, they have over the last 20 years, a 95% satisfaction rating. Like people, this isn't just, does this work? Like it resoundingly does work and is mutually beneficial. And there's a lot of different reasons. So it goes from money, happy, safer, feeling less lonely. There's lots of good benefits across the board for doing this. And, I don't know how much we want to get into the different statistics, but it's also good for the community. So going back to some of the things that we found in our survey, there's a lot of other statistics that Eden Prairie itself has done to see like what is the problem. And some of it, I kind of like this one right here is this is kind of represents the threshold needed to buy, like income, annual income, threshold needed to rent, and the expected, annual income of different professions. So it's really hard for a lot of individuals that we definitely want in our community. And so it's one of those things where not only are we helping homeowners, home seekers looking to rent, but we're addressing a community need as well, is what I'm trying to suggest with that.
Heard on TV this morning that this people are to buy a first time home buyers are from between ages of 40 and 45. It is got to that point where you're buy a home when you're 25 years old or 30 years old.
Yeah. And so this is not a unique problem to Eden Prairie. So, Sarah and I just purchased our home, a little over 2 years ago, and I'm 40 right now. So we hit that demographic. This is, and that's the beauty of this. This is scalable. That if we do this well, Lutheran Social Services wants to expand. They want to use us as a model and a template. And so we have an opportunity to kind of be this starting point for something that expands beyond anything we could possibly imagine. And that's kind of cool to think about, given that not that long ago, I'm like, what did I get this church into? How are we ever going to do that? And now all of a sudden, like, it feels like the possibilities are pretty exciting. Thank you. So, so again, we're focusing on kind of empty nesters, and then on the other side, like students, young professionals, kind of what we've been talking about, the people who fit that, can't get into that bracket that I showed in that previous slide. And we've talked about some of this before, is it allows people maybe who are able to live at home but would prefer not to live at home by themselves, opportunities to get more social connection, non-medical support, but chores, transportation. There's financial assistance that they get from receiving rent, and then also maybe a sense of being safer, having someone else there to watch and help, and if something goes wrong, that they're not alone. And then obviously for home seekers, affordable place, companionship, a stable living environment. And I don't want to belittle that one, because a stable living environment for people who are struggling to meet rent, they often have to bounce, from place to place. It's hard, it's frustrating, it's not great for kids. Stability is a premium in all of this. And then also shared responsibilities. So going to the next part, we were asking about like, what are some of the checks that we do to know that this is safe? We have, and you can read it on the slide, fingerprint checks, credit checks, reference checks, home visit checks. So some of that's also in partnership with the city, because we don't want people moving into a place that isn't safe to live in. We want people to have full transparency. These are the people, the backgrounds, and also some of the financial stuff isn't so that, 3 months in, we have to pull out and say that this isn't working anymore. That we're trying to make sure that everything is clear when you're making, these decisions and these matching. So some of this we've again covered. Can't be at risk of foreclosure, good standing on bills, The $106 fire inspection is that thing for renters that the city of Eden Prairie requires. Certificate of rent paid. I think Lutheran Social Services is hoping to help the homeowners with that for some of those tax different concerns, and then insurance. So it's a lot of the things that you would expect. But again, I'm really grateful that Lutheran Social Services is covering these, because if I had to come up with every possible safety check, every I guarantee you there is something that I would miss. I would not be able to think of everything, because if I was creating it from scratch, there's just no way to do that. So having a partner like this with all the legal concerns, all the different assets and resources available gives me personally a lot of confidence that when we start saying we can take matches, that the due diligence has been done. And I think that's going to go a long way for anyone that we engage. Let me see what else we have here. Yep.
Without all the safeguards.
Yep. And some of it too is also liability. There's certain ways that we can avoid liability concerns. But even if we could, let's say, okay, we can set this up and avoid getting sued or whatever if something goes south, that's really not a good posture anyway. It's on you. You can't sue us, and sorry it went, poorly. We want to say, no. We really think that we've done everything we can to ensure that this is a good match, right? Yeah.
Like elder abuse, things like that.
Exactly. And so, no, so Chaska would be an option.
But you mentioned the fee for Eden Prairie.
Yeah, so we haven't done all the legwork for all the different cities and what's required, but my understanding is it's pretty similar. So good question.
Do they engage, let's just say for the older person, do they engage the family within this credit with checks and balances? Because you're gonna come to a point where families are gonna, with the 55 plus person or somebody 65, how do they manage family input?
You mean like adult children of seniors?
Yeah,
I feel like that was discussed, but
that's just a question I have, is because you're gonna have input. Definitely input from any family.
yeah,
Family members of those that are gonna rent, so that.
No, the
coming in.
homeowner, the homeowner.
That's what I'm. Homeowner?
yeah.
That's just something that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I feel like at some point in this process, we did talk about that. But as I stand here today, I cannot remember the details. But what's really nice is, again, when Lutheran Social Services are easy to get a hold of. We have so many contacts, and even let's say we go out into the community, let's say the senior center is hosting an event and we have an opportunity to present this program. They've said, we will be there. We will help you. We want this to go well, because they can answer a lot of those infrastructure questions better than I can. Not to say that I can't answer many of them, but they're the ones actually doing it. So of course they would know better than I would.
Social service business for quite a while.
Yeah.
I've run into things before.
Yeah.
Or similar, maybe not quite exactly the same, but similar.
Yeah, and what's also nice is while this is a newer program for them, they're able to utilize so many of their other tools and resources. So they're not really creating things from scratch. A lot of their matching databases, they have all this, was it often called CRM, all that sort of stuff is available that they can reutilize and repurpose for different things.
I just want to share that I went through this recently, having to move so that I could save money. And I interviewed with 6 other people that either were living in apartments or homes. And it's kind of a risk because I didn't have social services like this behind me. It was all up to me. And I was turned down because I was a working person, but I didn't work 5 days a week. I was turned down because I didn't have any room to put my things. And I said, well, what about, you're planning on somebody coming in, it's already furnished. I'm not a vagabond, I have my own things. And on and on, and I finally went and found somebody. I'm out of Eden Prairie, I'm in Wayzata. And I have 2 roommates besides me in a nice, beautiful home, and I feel very, very safe. But when I was looking, most of the people were senior citizens still working.
Hmm.
And they didn't ask me for background. They didn't do those checks. I did it with them and eliminated several. So I think this would be a great program so that we can bring people in that might hesitate to do that, but feel a need or see a need or heard of a need. And they are into it because they know they have good screening and good people that would be coming into their home. So when you talk about family, in other words, you're the homeowner and you're gonna rent this out and you're concerned that the family members would disagree with this. But what about the family member of the person that's coming in?
Oh, I agree
to
all
live
around.
all the
Yeah.
way around?
Yeah.
So,
So Lutheran Social Services will give a lot of peace of mind, I think, to both parties. And that's part of where the fee comes in that they have. Because all these checks, all this different stuff, ensuring good communication, safeguards if it isn't a good match after the trial period, and like facilitating all of that with social workers and caseworkers isn't cheap, but that peace of mind is absolutely worth it. And I think people will be very understanding of the value that comes with, a nominal fee. But we'll touch on that a little bit later. Responsibilities of the home seeker are up there, but it's, the same sort of things, background checks, paying rent on time, being in good standing. So I think that this is kind of helpful to kind of say, big picture, what does the process look like? Okay. So the first one is application. So you're just sending information in, kind of like a form, to Lutheran Social Services saying, I want more information. I want to potentially open up my home or seek a home. Just kind of like the basic sending in the beginning paperwork. After that, we start getting into the background checks. There's an interview process, in-person interview to begin not only gauging interest, but trying to, assess like what would a good match even look like? Is this safe? All the, different things that a case and social worker would look through. Then we start like using some of their databases to match people on the other side using the different tools that they have. It's kind of like when I think about like going to college now, it's very different than when I went to college. It's kind of like you show up one day and you're like, well, hey, there's my roommate. Hope this works, sort of thing. But now, when you go to college, they have all these like forms and search things, and they have all these algorithms to make good matches. And it sounds like it goes way better than when I was in college decades ago. So, or at least hopefully that's the case. I have been in college sometimes, but that's my understanding. And that's what I imagine this is like. But then we go from there to introductions where, okay, we've found a match. We've done all the initial interviews. It looks like this could work on both sides. Let's just bring the two of you together to just talk and meet and make sure that this feels good, because ultimately Lutheran Social Services or our church, we don't get to make the decision. The parties involved make the decision, and the only way they can do that is to meet each other. So just setting up that, and then if that goes through, if they make that decision, there's kind of like this trial period. I think it's 30 days or maybe 2 weeks. I can't remember off, but there's 2 weeks of where we get to try this out. Is this really working? Because some of the things, like they actually have a pretty robust like checklist, and it's the things for a good match that it seems obvious when you say it, but you may not initially think of it. What should the thermostat be set at? What time is bed?
a lot of issues.
There are so many issues, and they try to catch a lot of these, but you only know until you're actually trying this out, you know? So they try to catch a lot of those like thermostat sort of issues, bedtime sort of issues. But, you know, they're also recognizing that there's nothing that compares with actually trying the match out for a little bit. From there, they kind of go to long-term matching agreements, but then it doesn't end there. There's ongoing support. So again, there are issues, maybe there are questions, maybe there's a conflict. They will step in and be essentially mediators, facilitators, so that things don't go sideways, or perhaps they can get in front of something that with just a little bit of communication, a little bit of healthy conversation, we can, they can, you know, restore right relationship, begin moving forward, or they can assess, no, this isn't good. And then we can begin, you know, stepping back in a healthy, appropriate way for the sake of both parties. But it's not, again, you're on your own to navigate these waters. They're in the middle of it to help, even once the match is agreed upon.
I noticed on the previous slide, there's actually a lease involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't think about that, but there again, that's.
But they're signing the lease just with the homeowner, not an entity, correct?
Pardon?
When they sign a lease, it's just with the homeowner, not an entity. In other words,
Oh, yeah,
if I broke my lease
Right,
in an
it's the-
apartment complex, I would be fined for all the rent that I'm walking away from.
Yeah, so it's ultimately with, you know, the two parties, but Lutheran Social Services acts as a mediator and is involved in all of that. So even as far as the lease itself goes, they're going to help facilitate, like, you're not up, it's not up to you to create the lease yourself. So they are involved in the process, but ultimately it's the two parties who are making the match and the agreement. So yes, but Lutheran Social Services is still involved. Yeah. So it's slow, and that's on purpose. We don't want to rush anything. And again, I like this idea of ongoing support, because I think that if it was up to individuals to do it, they'd be pretty nervous about, like, can I actually manage this? So in some of the frequently asked questions, these different ones, you know, come up, and a lot of them, I don't know how much I want to cover today, but I present this because these are all things that are on Lutheran Social Services radar that people are going to ask about, they're going to wonder about. And to say that it's on their radar, that they're thinking about it, I think is worth talking about, that they are being very intentional, deliberate, and thoughtful. And I think that that is just worth saying. But rather than going through each of the frequently asked questions or some of the questions they ask, just a quick sample is helpful. And what are we as a church responsible? Right here, engaging our community and getting them to, you know, do applications. And then we also have some opportunities as a part of this, or even potentially over here, to have like events where people, like, let's say, I hate, this was maybe not the greatest example, but you think about like a speed dating event where you have an opportunity to, you know,
Much potentials together.
bringing potentials together, not just one-on-one for, but like having more opportunities to create social interactions. So again, the idea is we're in our community, we're being social, and we're engaging them, and then the infrastructure is handled by somebody else. But I promise you that as a church, the more we are talking to people, the more we are engaging people, the more we're answering the question, why are we doing this in the first place, the better our church will be long-term. So we have all the opportunities in the world to begin doing exactly that. Like, because people are interested in this, they want this, and we have an opportunity to be the hands and feet in a real and tangible way and share, we're doing this because we love Jesus and we want to bless our community. It's a neat opportunity. So who is our target audience? So again, I said that we're being very narrow in our focus. So we're looking for 55 plus, live alone. So for example, there are, if like having like kids, we're not gonna mix kids into it yet. Because that adds a lot of extra variables. And for a pilot program where we're just trying to evaluate the success, we want to keep as few variables on the table as possible. After the first year, we may expand it to more options and opportunities. So kids, married couples, things of that sort. But for the first year, very, very narrow. So they have to own their home. And you can read this, but again, background checks. So one of the things I want to mention over here is like, there has to be some degree of stability. This is not intended to be emergency housing. And that needs to be, kind of clear because that is a different category. And we're afraid that will kind of undermine the integrity and some of the safety and all those other things that we were looking like. This is not what that is designed to do. There's other programs for that, but that is not this one. And again, so you can kind of read some of these. Substance abuse, there has to be some degree of income, and that, because if we don't have these things, it's not going to be successful long term. People are going to have bad experiences, and then we won't get more people to sign up. So we're being very careful and very conscious, especially early on. Yes,
Live alone is truly alone or a couple.
truly alone. For the first year, again, after that, we may expand it, but the more variables we have right now, the harder it will be to gauge the success, what the problems are, what the successes are. So the most limited scope we have gives us opportunities to expand later once we have a good sense of what's working and what's not working. Again, 1 year will go by very fast.
But that age of 55 plus and above being single is gonna be a challenge. It will.
Yeah,
But
it will.
We can still be successful.
Yeah.
But
And on the seekers, single,
Yes, single. So
Yeah.
again, no kids or things of that sort. It's all
and age,
there is no age. We're assuming it'll be more like students or young professionals.
It said on here 18 and above.
Yes, sorry, it have to be an adult. Thank you for clarifying that.
another question that comes to mind in this area is the immigration issues. Is
I think
that group, there might be qualified folks, maybe not, but
that if there'll be a lot of different like demographics that could benefit from this. And I think that for me personally, I think that we will see we might be surprised what the makeup and the demographics of our community actually are as we go out and engage them more. And I think there's going to be a lot of people from a lot of different cross sections of life that will look at this and say, yeah, this would help me.
A lot of those people that were afraid of going through this, what we've gone through the last 6-8 months, are illegal aliens. But their fear is that that wasn't going to stop people from picking them up.
Yeah, and so again, there's more that Lutheran Social Services can say about some of these specific topics, but again, the whole purpose is we can know that we're helping people and that it's safe, and then there's a process to get us there. Again, more frequently asked questions. I'm not going to try to answer all of this, but I present it because as we go out and communicate, we should anticipate the questions that people have. And Lutheran Social Services is thinking about them and trying to be proactive so that when people sign up, they feel good about it. So again, multiple background checks, including credit, references, interviews, in-home visits. There's a 2-week trial, and I think also a 30-day trial, and then also social worker support. So that's kind of some of the bigger things. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anything, but I'm going to pause and ask for questions as I'm reviewing some of my final notes. Yes, Laura.
Does St. Andrew Lutheran Church have the same role that we do? Are they involved in the same way?
Yes, essentially.
They've been at it a little longer. Or is this their first year too?
This is their, so they've, the person that I would say that has been engaging with the city and the Housing Alliance, it's kind of like I would say the person who's been most active in this topic is affiliated with St. Andrews.
Okay.
So I don't know what level St. Andrews as a congregation is involved and engaged, but the person who has done, I would say, significantly more work than me on this topic, who actually made that connection to Lutheran Social Services to start, is connected with St. Andrews. I think they are. And I met the pastor and I've talked to the pastor over at St. Andrews. And we actually did an interview together with the Eden Prairie paper about this. So it's kind of neat to see some of that happening. I'd really like, this is like boasting in the Lord sort of thing. I would love to see our church be so involved in this, so gung ho that, everyone, when they hear about this Lutheran Social Services shared housing program, just because of how much we are involved, they think of us. That's what I would like to do. Not to put anything against, like, we're partners, they're wonderful, it's been great. It's more of, I want to see us so engaged that people, like, the first thought they have is Prairie Community Church.
When Paul and I were first married and we went to Knox Church in Minneapolis, we ended up living with an older person in the congregation. She had made an apartment in the upper level of her home in Minneapolis. And so we lived up there and then she was on the lower level. And so that's how it's similar to this. We lived in her home and provided any kind of service. She's a pretty independent little woman and never married, so totally alone. And, but, we did things for her and, I mean, we lived and we paid rent and the only one thing was she controlled the heat. We were upstairs and she was downstairs. And we were swimming out in our windows. It was like the best situation for a newly married couple. She hardly charged us anything.
Yeah. So, pausing again, questions about the program itself. I mean, we could get into more of the minutia, but hopefully that gives us a sense of what the program is and how it functions. But other questions? Yes,
Churches here in the Eden Prairie.
I think we absolutely should.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't be until after the pilot program.
I think that once we are able to begin taking matches to create a database of home seekers, I think that there will be a lot of people from a lot of churches, like, who would be like, if nothing else, even if they don't want to help, like, get the word out, would say, I might be interested in opening up my home. I think churches are a great place that we should be engaging. And if we're all brothers and sisters in Christ, why on earth would we be territorial and say, no, this is our thing? Like, we should be engaging them. And I think that it, in many ways, the demographics we're looking for, if I may be so bold, fits pretty well with where churches are at in America today. Lois?
Well, you may have said this, but I don't hear. Would the seekers be just from this local Southwest area, or would they be from Minneapolis and other places too?
That's a good question. I don't actually know. My gut says that they should be local to the area,
Okay.
but I don't actually remember that.
Within our regional counties, right?
Southwest Metro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't foresee us importing people from outside Southwest Metro, but I don't remember any specific, like, check against that in my conversations. But that doesn't mean that they don't have that on their list or radar.
I was gonna add that when I was looking 8-9 months ago, Craigslist of all places has a whole section for people looking for renters. And a lot of them were elderly people wanting someone to come into their home in exchanges for help in lawn care. So it's not uncommon that they're seeking that out and they think, well, I've got an extra room and they want a single person, most of them. Some of would allow pets. And Montemita comes to mind, Shakopee comes to mind. And so I think we'll have a good resource once we get out there and start talking to people.
I think so too. Yes.
The observation that people who would be seeking a place to live in the Southwest Metro may not currently be living here, but their employment would be in this
And that's
area.
why they want to
And
come
they,
here.
and they, you know, that would save them tons of
Yeah.
money
Oh,
in
yeah.
transportation. Jerry and I have had kids, college students a couple of times who had summer jobs. And
Yeah.
the area, and so we shared a house with them, and that
Works out great.
is very helpful on both
I was
sides.
just contacted by a contact I made like months last year. A young man, he wants a place in Eden Prairie. He's willing to pay $1,000 a month if I was looking at him.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a real possible thing that we could put it, I would say, let's go through this service with
Yeah.
the Lutherans and.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is, and I've never at this point heard anyone say, this is a terrible idea. Like, there may be some questions about specifics and logistics, but everyone's like, yes, makes sense to me. I'm on board. And then we get to the next point of, now, how do we actually start? If we go back to that one picture with all of the steps, how do we start actually engaging our community? And we've already started talking about that quite a bit. So we are not ready to actually begin taking matches yet. It's not live on the website. The website is created, but what we need to do, like today, is just to say, what is this program? Because if we don't know what it is, it's really hard to get out in our community and talk about it, right? So that was our goal for today. What is this? The next step is to say, now who wants to help us get out in our community and share that, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to be doing in the following Sundays is we're going to have kind of a sign up sheet out there, and we'll probably also have one on the website where you can say, yes, I'm in, like, I want to be a part of engaging our community through this program. Sign me up. I don't necessarily know how to do it, but this makes sense, and I want to be a part of that. And then once I have that group, then we'll start focusing on like how we do that, some of the specifics. So as we've kind of talked about, we'll kind of give different assignments, talking points, training, but like engaging property owners is one of the things that's kind of been assigned to us. So some of the people and different groups, like Joanne is her name from St. Andrews, who's been doing this. She has a lot of contacts with, there's a senior community center in Minnetonka. So she's kind of like, that one's mine. I'm claiming that one, sort of thing. Yeah, which is great. But they've also we've also said like, these are some ones that make more sense for us. Some of the property owners. There's also it's like a family fun day here in Eden Prairie. It's either May 1st or May 2nd. Where I think it's at one of the schools. I wish I would have written that down, but we have a table and we can present on it there, and that's just in a few weeks from now. But we will have, it won't be just us. So it could be one of those things where you don't need to present about it, but you can meet Joanne and some of the others and hear how we talk about it, how we present, to get an idea of how you might present it later, how you might engage. So we're not going to spend our time today saying, we're not going to divide up. Jeff, you go here, Lois, you go here, and here's your talking points, and here's how we're going to do it. Today, the goal is, this is what the program is. This is kind of a vision for how we engage. And the next step is, who wants to be a part of that? And it can also be, I know that there are people who are interested in this who aren't here today. You can get them up to speed. We can have conversations, but this is just a nice way to get it started. So we'll have sign-up sheets, both online and over there. And then I would say if you want to be a part of it, try to be at that family fun day, and I'll send that out to anyone who signs up for it. But friends, we're talking about, revival and renewal in our church. Each one bring one. I promise you, this is a great way to begin doing that. So,
Being a renter, what are would be some available things that I would be a possibility of helping out with? Because I mean, I can't provide a home.
as a renter,
I mean, I'm renting and so it's,
right?
I can
So
provide a home. But will there be other areas of things that I,
it is not required that you provide like services. It could be purely financial, or it could be pure, like, I'm here for company, for isolation, for loneliness, whatever.
no, I'm saying I can't provide a
She
home.
can't bring somebody into her.
I
home.
can't, I'm renting, so I can't provide a home for somebody.
Right.
But if you're a renter, you wanna know what else you can do?
Pardon?
You're saying if you're a renter, you
Just
want-
be able-
I thought if you were looking as a renter,
No. I can't provide and I'm sure a building may not, well, we've got some, but we've got some 2-bedroom apartments that have 2 bathrooms that would work wonderfully, but I don't know if they would allow, or even buildings would allow you to do that.
yeah, so you would not be eligible in that situation
So
to open
what are
up.
my options for?
So yours would be to be out in the community, helping to find and encourage other people who do fit the criteria to open up their home, to fill out an application, to express interest. So not to open up your space, your job would be to encourage others to open up their space. Great question.
So when does the 1 year start? I mean, right now you're,
As soon as the lawyers give us the green light, basically. So I anticipated we would have that almost a month ago, and I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to try to throw lawyers under the bus, but I guess if they're doing their due diligence and I have no idea what it is, I'm glad that it will be all taken care of and hopefully very soon. So yeah, I expected that we would be ready to take matches. We're not, but that's because good work is being done behind the scenes.
Can I speak to?
Yeah.
Lois's, our association does not allow us to rent. So I'm in the same point, but I belong to book group in Eden Prairie Senior Center. I plan to talk to them about this. I'm gonna bring cards and flyers. You belong to the historical society. So
Yeah, the annual meeting is Thursday that I'm going to.
so that's, when we have our national night out in my neighborhood, I plan to have somebody come and talk it, just talking it up everywhere you go.
Mhm.
You, as
That's
a matter of fact,
That's
are
networking.
Yep.
Yeah,
Our-
I realize that. I
You're
just wondered what the.
influential person.
Yeah.
I mean, you will speak from authority and people will listen to
In
you.
fact, I'm gonna put a little plug in for Eden Prairie Presbyterian Church on Thursday, at the Historical Society meeting.
Please do.
Paul Anderson, who was raised in this church, is speaking. There was one other Minnesota Supreme Court justice from Eden Prairie way back in the 1800s. And he puts on, like they do at villages and places, he dresses up and plays the actual part, talks like he is the Supreme Court justice. And he is doing that this, I've seen him do it before, and he's doing it Thursday night.
If you'd like to join us, it's at 5:30.
Yeah. And it's
And it's at Camp Edenwood.
the Camp Edenwood, where where that is, yeah. Anyway, little.
Great plug.
Great
We're
plug.
getting close to noon. I want to put a bow on things. So before I do that, thank you all for coming. I had no idea how many people. I'm very encouraged to see you all. And I know that there are other people who are interested who simply couldn't be here at this time. And even though we aren't able to take matches yet, take extra flyers, take extra cards. You can start planting the seeds and having conversations now about this. Even before we're like, okay, we're assigned to this place, or we're having all of these, you can present what you know thus far and just begin seeding the idea to people in your communities, in your groups, in your networks. Because the more we are networking, like the more we are going to engage in our community, the more opportunities that we're going to have for faith conversations, and ultimately that we're going to share the love of Jesus with people. And hopefully that influences, the other things that we all want to, which is a thriving church and community. But I promise you that you will have more faith conversations if you're talking to people. And more people will come to know Jesus if you're having faith conversations. And more people will come to this church if they're coming to know Jesus. It starts with engaging our community and having conversations. And what a great setup this provides us. Not to say that this is something we don't care about, we don't want its success, but let's not forget Jesus and how we got started with this in the first place. Make sense? Mm-hmm. If there are other questions, come and ask me, but the next step, sign up to be a part of all of that, or just grab a bunch of flyers and go for it. Okay? Not everything needs to be necessarily super structured and organized, but the more we do that, the better too. Let me pray for us and then I'll dismiss for.
Say thank you, Jim. Thank you. Be involved in the set it up and
Yeah.
I'm your.
Thank you. And as I said in my sermon, however long ago, you'd be surprised how much I tried and how little I accomplished. And really, no, I mean, I cannot stress this enough. This is a clear example of God's like, okay, I'm gonna make sure you know that this is not about you. This is all me. Because I can point to how little I accomplished. And then all of a sudden, like that, God's like, all right, I'll throw you a bone. I got this.
I bet you were excited when you got some of those first calls.
It wasn't exciting. It was like just disbelief. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, because I was like, okay, like I was honestly at the point of saying, okay, how do we give up in a graceful way that I can save face? I mean, honestly, like I told the church we were going to do this. We failed. This is an embarrassment. And, like, how are people going to trust me going forward? Like I tell them to do this and it's just a fool's. Those were the thoughts I was having. And it was in that space that God stepped in. So let's not forget that. We don't know what we're doing. That's okay. Neither did I. I don't know, like, I feel like I'm failing. That's okay. God has got this. I promise you, you will grow in your faith if you try and fail and let God step up. I promise you this. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this amazing opportunity that God has given us. And God, we do, in fact, give you the glory. Help us to be faithful. Help us to use this opportunity you have given us to engage our community, to have faith conversations, to share about how good you are and what you've done. And Lord, we pray that you would bless us to grow us in our faith, bless our community, and bless our church through all of it. God, we're grateful for who you are. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you all.
Yeah, sure.